Hello, this is Lakeitha from Lakeitha's Perspective, and we're going to talk about ways and means of breaking the threshold of, or the barriers of communication. So, breaking some of the barriers of communication, you have to use wisdom. All right. Sometimes when a person is a brawling individual, they're upset at the particular time. That's not the time for you to interrupt or engage in an argument with them. The best thing to do is just to let them talk. Let them talk until they're tired of talking, and just attentively listen. And then once they've expressed themselves, then you use that as an opportunity for you to go ahead and express yourself and say what you have to say. See, communication goes two ways. It's not a one-way street. And so that is one of the key things that you should do when trying to break the barriers of communication. Another thing, as it relates to breaking barriers in communication, you must be willing to tell the truth. You got to be willing to tell the truth. Relationships and communication cannot be built based off lies, because people don't trust you when you tell lies. So then you'll have this situation where you're just talking until your face turns blue, but the other person is not receiving what you're saying because you have a history of telling lies. You have to be truthful. You have to be truthful, and so that's one of the things you can do to break that barrier, or break that barrier down as it relates to communication. Another thing you need to know is that I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. That is just so essential for you to remember, because we're not always right, and it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. So when you're talking and trying to communicate to someone your feelings about a situation, just keep in mind, I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. And that will help. That will help in communicating what you have to communicate to the other person. Another thing that helps with communication is just be quiet. That's something so simple. Be quiet. You don't always have to have the last say. All right? That doesn't mean that you're any less of a person because you didn't speak your mind or you didn't tell them off. You don't always have to speak. This is so essential, especially in managerial roles, or you're the subordinate and you're speaking with your superior. It's so essential that you allow them, especially if it's a cocky supervisor, that you allow them to continue to believe that they're in charge, and you just say, okay, that's fine, or you'll turn it and say, what would you like for me to do? A lot of times when I'm sending emails out, I make it short and sweet. I don't go into an extension of things as it relates to what I'm talking about. I just make it short and sweet, and at the end of that email I say, what are your thoughts? And I do that a lot with my superiors, because I want to keep those lines of communication open, and at the same time I don't want them to think I'm trying to tell you how to do your job. You're the superior, and a lot of times you guys can come to a nice, even compromise when you operate and work that way. That's my role as a subordinate. My role as far as communication as a manager, I always allow input from my subordinates, and I do that because it allows them to trust me and to trust my process. They know that there's lines of communication open, and they can come in and they can express themselves. They can give suggestions as it relates to what we're trying to accomplish, and that alone allows them to come to me and be able to openly communicate with me, whether it's praise or whether there's a situation. Another thing that helps with communicating with my subordinates is that I praise in public and I criticize in private. I never humiliate my staff in a public place, all right? Just this past week, I had one-on-one meetings with each one of my staff members, and I expressed to them what my expectations were. That's the communication. And then they were expressing to me what they wanted to see, in the place of employment. And so lines of communication is not only in just a personal relationship. because there's barriers there. But there can be barriers in the workplace too. And so those are a few tips I can give. The last tip I talked about in my perspective is don't respond when someone's communicating their feelings to you. Don't respond by justifying your actions, because just admit it or just own up to it. When you justify yourself, it causes an additional barrier in the communication process, because now that person feels like, what's the use of me telling you what I have to say? Because all you're going to do is justify your actions. All you're going to do is say, yeah, I didn't do this, but. As soon as you say but, it knocks out everything else that you said in the process. You know, but is a conjunction. So everything else that you said before is like null and void because you put but in there. So don't justify it. If you did it, just say, you know what? Yeah, I stepped on your toe and I'm so sorry. But next time, I'm going to try my best not to step on your toe. That offended you. I'm sorry I brushed up against you. I'm sorry I made some sly remark that really was offensive to you. I said something about your hair and you're really particular about your hair. You have to know the people that labor among you. You have to know people. And when you learn them, when you know them, when you observe them, then it's easier for you to break that barrier of communication. Again, this is Lakeitha's Perspective, and thank you for watching.